Two Explorers again. Today it's another old ghost town relic hunt. This is an old tin mining town which dates from the late 1800s and was pretty much gone by the 1940s. World War II sort of killed off a lot of these little mining towns in the Great Divide. But absolutely spectacular country up here. We've had quite a bit of rain now. The wet season started and these creeks are flowing. You can see that creek down, it's just beautiful. But we're up in the mountains today. We're up in the Great Dividing Range at about 800 metres altitude. You can see there's one of the old telegraph lines that came into town. In front of me here's an old rubbish pit. We're behind a line of shops here, where the Land Rover's parked up there. That's the main street. So really hilly country. There's an old 2-foot gauge tram line that runs right along there in a spectacular fashion on that escarpment on the other side of the creek, and a big dam down the bottom. I might get down there and show you that later. But we're going to have a hunt around here today. The weather's cleared up, it's just beautiful today, nice cool breeze at this altitude, and we'll see if we can get some old relics from the place. So back shortly with the first one. Okay, today I've left the GTI 2500 at home. I've got a brand new bit of kit here, courtesy of Garrett Australia, an AT Gold, which we will be using prospecting later in the year along with the Infinium. 18 kilohertz VLF detector. It's got all the iron discrimination features of the AT Pro, but slightly higher frequency. So today in the ghost town we'll be using it as a relic machine. It won't be an all metal mode. It's a true non-motion all metal mode on this machine with an automatic or manual ground balance. But I'll have it in one of the Discriminate modes, which are preset in the factory. I've got it on Discriminate 2 at the moment with the default iron discrimination at 35, so off we go. I'm going to ground balance here about 66, so it's fairly moderately mineralised, this country. Up in the ridge lines here, where this typically in this mining country you're going to get fairly mineralised soil, so I've just got that on a 66 there. I may have just got my first keeper with the AT Gold. I've dug a couple of pieces of brass. You can see how deep that hole is. It's quite deep. I'm about 7 inches down there. It was a really scratchy signal, but I was a solid 78, I think. There we go, look. You can see that 78, 79, 80. I'm in Discriminate 2 mode, which defaults to an iron audio discrimination of 35. But it looks like it's some sort of costume jewellery. It may be a silver frog or something. Looks like a frog. I don't know, I'm just guessing, but I think it's some sort of brooch or jewellery. Okay, I'll clean it up and we'll have a good look at it. Well, here's the hole. That's a dead set 8 inches, and this is an 8-inch coil, so it's slightly moist soil, but the double D's really punch through this soil, and in that nice little coil, you get in around the trash, which is handy. But that was a good signal from the top. A little bit scratchy, but it's a silver frog. One of his legs are bent there, unless it looks like he's wiping his eyes. I would say that's going to be sterling silver. It's a brooch of some sort. You can see there it's attached to something, but I'll give that a good clean and we'll get some still photographs of it. But definitely sterling silver, just by the conductivity reading on the machine. Good one. This target here is a bit scratchy. There's a bit of trash around it, I think, but if it's a good solid 78 when I get a hit on it. 75, it's in the 70s, and the audio is fairly clean. You don't get that rough edges on the audio like you did with iron, so I'll dig this and we'll see what comes out of this one. Well, it's a little brass fitting of some sort of like a cone shaped object. Quite a solid little target, so that's why it rang up so well in the like mid to high 70s. Okay, well, it's got to see it's got some sort of it's knurled around the edges so you can tighten it onto something. Well, this is the top end of the town dam. You can see well, you might be able to see it on the video, but that water's flowing quite hard into there, and I can hear the spillway on the dam downstream to our left. Almost park-like down there. It's just absolutely beautiful with the water in there like that. And actually, if you can pick it out on the video, on the other side of on the dam, the creek there, there's an orange anthill. But just inside that you can see there's a cutting, and that level area there is where the old 2-foot gauge tramway came round the side of the creek, around up through this spectacular country, and up further it goes into this really spectacular gorge country, and there's some aerial ropeways where they used to load the tin. It was alluvial tin they were mining up in here, onto the tram line on the other side of the gorge. So they the mine was on this side, and the tramway on the other side, and they had a loading station over there, and an aerial ropeway ran across with the bucket. So pretty spectacular country. It's just beautiful. I'll get up in there one day. I've never been there myself. I've only seen old photographs, but this big dam down here was the town water supply. Okay, I just got another relic. It's a rather wanged up condition. It's an old spoon or fork handle, which may be hallmarked. Very old. That's like the 19th century style things you find. Oh, it's definitely a little teaspoon, eh? I'd say. But that'll have a mark on it of some description. Probably just electroplate. But this little 8-inch coil on the AT Gold in Relics mode. It's really good for these ghost town type of hunts where you get a lot of ground trash, tin trash, old trash, and you can just poke around slow in between the targets and the rocks and the trees and bushes, and you can pick things out of it. So it's a handy sized coil for this type of detecting. Well, we're just detecting ourselves way down towards that creek, which is really... I want to go down and have a look down there. I'd imagine there'd be a bit of swimming went along in there in the old days, and along that bank, because it's a beautiful bit of, you know, still clean and safe water. There's a bit of a track up behind us that might have led down there. This is reasonably steep here, but we might go down there and have a hunt along that creek bank, which just looks like a lawn at the moment, the way the grass is picked up. I just got the last target I just got was a solid 68, but it was a big target. It was an old axe head. Fairly common finds in these old places. There we go. Okay. Well, we'll just continue down this way, and we might head along this steep bank behind the main row of shops, and there's a hotel cellar up there, a concrete cellar where one of the hotels were. Well, the next target out of quite a shallow hole was this brass buckle. It's a 49 low 50s signal, and that's still quite polished and shiny looking. Maybe off a bit of saddle tack or something. And right after the buckle we just got a pocket watch part. Amazing how many pieces of pocket watch you find in these old towns. You see old watches must have fallen apart fairly easily. Okay, on we go. Well, that's the back of the main street up there along that other ridgeline on the other side of this little steep gully here. There's a couple of rubbish pits here. Not many bottles around, but these are the rubbish pits at the back of the residence and shops up here. And I just got a clock part. It's a big signal. Rang up a high 80s. So internal clock part. Okay. Righto, well we're just trying around the back of these areas here because there's a lot of trash up the top, and it's actually been fairly heavily disturbed. It's been bulldozed many years ago, maybe back in the 1950s, 1960s. But there's still things in here. You just got to detect around the fringes of the town. And when we're finished on this side, we'll go over the other side of the main street and down into the gully on the other side, and then further up the road was a fairly large hospital. So that's always worth a look. Well, we've got a bit of a clock theme going with that pocket watch part, then the internal mechanism of a clock, and now we've got another clock cog. Lovely 7980, that one. Okay, on we go. Well, Mrs. NQ just called me on the two-way. We're going back to the Land Rover for a bit of lunch now, and on the way back to the car, a broken harmonica reed. There's a nice high signal, that one, as you'd expect them to give off. Well, it's after lunch now. We've swapped detectors. I'm on the AT Pro and Mrs. NQ's on the AT Gold. And I just got a surface point here. It's just sitting on the top of this rock. There's a lovely old brass button, which will be branded. Yes, I think it says EXCELSIOR. That'll be a breast pocket shirt button. Good one. Okay, well, we're just hunting along the, there's an old remains of an old water tank and some rubbish pits there, so there was obviously a dwelling or a shop up on the top of this little ridge line. So we're just hunting along this, pretty rocky, but we're going to go down into this creek here and see what might have trickled down into the creek over. Well, that's the old town area we were hunting earlier on the day before lunch. You can see that old telephone pole there. A bit of a track runs up the back of town. That's the creek I showed you earlier. It's flowing beautifully there. And around here's an interesting old indicator. Is a big mango tree. So that's an exotic species to this area. So that would have been planted. Perhaps there's a shack or something there. But this is what you've got to watch out for in these old mining towns. There's the mine. Now there was a lot of alluvial tin come out of here, but there was a lot of tin was mined in loads, so here's a tin mine. I can't see the bottom of that, I don't want to get any closer. You can see that there's been some sort of beam or system, probably a windlass or something up here, or maybe a poppet head even. You can see the mine shaft there. Goes way down. There's no evidence of any old ladders or anything, but heaven knows how long. Well, it's the alluvial tin loads, they're like deep leads through here, so they would have followed those tin loads down through these spots where they saw the ore, but you would imagine they'd have a bit of trouble with water and would have had to pump these shafts, but there's no evidence of pumps or anything here. So up there where I've got my detector laying, there's a flat area. That could have been a some sort of machinery stand, but yeah, so there's a tin mine right at the back of town here. Okay, well that's the mine, so we're just going to come down here with a detector for a little bit under this mango tree and see if there's anything down here, down near the creek. Probably an old house or shack up here. There's 2 or 3 houses up the top because there's some rubbish pits up there with a lot of broken bottles. No complete bottles. I think the bottle hunters did these old towns over pretty hard in the early 60s when bottle hunting really became big and before the metal detecting phenomenon, but there's not too many good bottles left. Yeah, occasionally you find an unfound bottle pit, but it's rare. Anyway, we'll have a look under this mango tree, eh? Well, I'm under the old mango tree, and right next to it's a frangipani, which is lovely and healthy. I guess there's plenty of water here. You can see it's dropped these really fragrant flowers. Beautiful. Frangipani. But see the old bottles. There's been a lot of drinking here, but not much dropping. There's old broken bottles from the 1800s everywhere, all over the ground. I guess I sat under here is a good space to have a good spot to have a cold drink and after a hard day in the mine up there on the hill. And you can go for a swim down here. Well, we moved up the hill slightly now. We're just going to have a cup of tea before we move over into the old hospital area and see what's left over in that area. Well, this is the area of the old hospital. There was a, I believe, 12 to 16 bed hospital here with a nurse and a doctor. So there's a bit of infrastructure over in there. There's a bit of a concrete, might be a silage pit or some sort of thing on the other side. So we'll go on this little ridge line and see what we can find up in there. Well, up on this narrow ridge line that you can see ahead of us here was the school, and down on the next little knoll there was the police station, the main part of town where we were earlier on is just beyond that. But there's like some old rock terraces up here where there's been parts of the schoolyard, I guess, or school buildings. Would only have been a one-room school, so there wouldn't have been too much to it. But I just got a nice surface point here. It's a solid 66, and it's a nice little silver thimble. Just got to find it again now. Here she is, just laying on the surface, as it has been doing for a very long time. No, it's not silver. It's just one of those little typical 19th century thimbles you find in these places. Good one. Okay, well, we'll just stick on this school area, see what else comes out. Well, a metre from that thimble was a lovely solid signal, ring up in the 70s. I just scratched it. I think it looks to be a coin of some description, probably an old penny. Quite flat and worn. Typically up here we get the old English style pennies. Look at the condition of that though, lovely edge on it. Well, we'll clean it and see if we can get a date. I'd suggest it's going to be a Britannia penny. Good one. This is just on the edge of the school grounds. Well, there she is. It's a glorious 1908, I think that is. English penny. Edward VII. Look at that. Look at the lettering in the rim down. It's just beautiful. Like I said, once again, this dry country preserves these old coins just in this kind of condition, when you consider that that thing's been in the ground for that long. And it's fairly neutral soils up on this ridge line, so well, that's great to find that. Okay, on we go. Well, that's the first coin I've ever found with this AT gold. It's brilliant, this little coil. I'll tell you why in a minute, but well, this is almost an air test, but I'll just show you the numbers on that and the audio response. High 70s for an old English penny. But why I mentioned recovery time there, adjacent to that, about 3 inches from it, was an old large lead roofing nail. I was getting a slightly ragged signal there. Turned the iron audio on and it wasn't too bad, so that's why I dug it. And that's how the penny came into light there. So the thing is, with that little coil, you can get in these in the old ghost towns like this, where there's a lot of trash, iron laying on the ground, and tin. It recovers very quickly, and you can always check it with the iron audio anyway. But very satisfying to dig that first coin with the new detector. Well, that's where I just got the penny on the side of the ridgeline. You can see that there was a structure there of some description. There's a line of rocks and a little bit of fill there, little benched area. I'm just going to work along the side of here, along the side of what I believed was the schoolyard, I'm pretty sure it was, and up towards that little knoll there where the police station was, and off to these edges. This is an old bit of an old stove or something down in here, so and there's a lot of broken ceramic in here. Meanwhile, Colleen's up there working on the hospital, and I'll give her a call on the two-way and see how she's going. Well, we didn't get much up at the hospital. The ground's too rocky up there. It's like a bare ridge top, so we're just going to stay on the sides of these ridges down behind the old houses and the school and see if we can pick up anything that's sort of going down towards the rubbish pits and that sort of thing. So we're going to head down that way. That was a good, pretty solid 68, 67 there. We'll try with the iron audio one. Still quite clean. So it's not going to be iron. Might be a good target, that one. Okay. What I was saying about this little coil, you get up against these rocks like this is great. Okay, we'll try that one. I've just got this nice old brass button out of that shallow scrape behind me there. It's a best ring edge. Nice little button, that one. Typical of the branded buttons you get from the 19th century. I just dug my second thimble, and this curious item, which is a long way from home in both time and distance, I don't know what it is, it's brass, and it's with a knurled top. It's some sort of lid with you can see it's a screw lid. B.A. Jorf, H-J-O-R-F and Company, Stockholm, made in Sweden. What about that? Nice one. This appears to have been a house here once. As you can see, that little rock wall, it's built up a little bit of a fill pad and a cut area up in there. Just a miner's cottage sort of arrangement, and a concrete stump. Bit of an enamel bowl with the bottom rusted out of it, but it's an interesting piece of Victorian memorabilia. It's an old bedhead. Typical of these ornate sort of bedheads you get in these places. Cast iron. Just laying on top of the ground. So I'd say this is a house, could have been the school teacher's house. I'm just making that up, but this was the school area. I'm just heading towards that old rubbish pit just down there to see what was around that area, and another surface find is a harmonica reed complete. Laying in the grass there. Sometimes they have their brand name on them. Nice one. Well, I just had a scratch around that rubbish pit I just showed you, and no complete bottles. Like I said, I think these places were hit pretty hard by the bottle hunters in the 60s, but there's a lovely old Symington and Company's bottle, which is completely broken, and a lovely old china teacup with a gold band around it. Just half a cup of tea, that one. Some bottle bases here. S UCB, whatever that means. So that's the rubbish pit, but just scattered ceramics and bottle shards. There's no complete bottles that I've spotted. I might have a look over in that bit of a gorge there on the creek at the back of town here. Well, we've just met back up at the Land Rover for another cup of tea. Mrs. NQ's got some fabulous finds here in the little pouch. Have a look at the stirrup. I guess it's brass. It's obviously, you can see why it's come off, but it's cracked at the top. But otherwise, that's in flawless condition. Beautiful. And this one here is a lovely little relic. You can read it there. a little tag off machinery or a bit of plumbing item. It was a Sid Judd, plumber and tinsmith, Toowoomba. So these come up from the Darling Downs up into North Queensland, chasing the tin. Well, the clock theme continues. This was just under the leaf litter. That's one of those pieces I found earlier in the day. And here's some of the motion of an old clock. Good one. And Mrs. NQ's on the AT Gold now, and straight away she's got a lovely old relic. It's a brass button. It was a solid 44-45 on the AT Gold. Righto, I'll subtitle the brand. Yeah, it looks like a buckle. Next to near the button is a buckle. Nice one. Well, Mrs. NQ's just hunting along the back of these old rubbish pits with the AT Gold. There's a lot of rubbish pits along this area where there was a couple of houses, and bottles, broken bottles are all over the place. But it's always, anyway, she's come up with a great old relic here. Look at this. It's an old griddle or hob iron. Have a look at that. Definitely taken that one. That's without, other than not having the handle, it's just about new condition. No worries. Here's a nice service find, Mrs. NQ. It's a little screw top bottle. Has got some lettering on the bottom. Maybe a little perfume bottle or something, but that's the first intact bottle we've seen. Good one. Here's a nice little Mrs. NQ find. It's a, looks like some sort of, it's quite solid, a little ornamental clasp of some sort. It's got like a teeth on that side and a fleur-de-lis on it. Nice one. We'll just see what else is in this little area. There might be more of it here. Well, we've come down along that creek line that I was showing you earlier. This is actually the dam. That water that's being held back by the dam, and that tramway's up on the other side. I'm down in this gully here, which is drains the back of the shops. Got a nice old relic here. This thing suggested it could be a window latch. It's quite ornate. Came out of this, as you can see, there's a lot of broken glass. This doohickey. Have a look at that. Could be, well, it's definitely a latch of some sort, but gee, she's a big item. I'll see if there's anything written on that, or any maker's name or anything. That was a consistent 87, 88 on the machine. Well, it's a big target too. Well, here we are at the creek. That's the old mango trout there on the bank. The town's up just behind me. And this is where the creek just about runs into the headwaters of the dam. You can see it's still falling there, but shortly past that little bit of a snag there, it drops into the dam area. What a beautiful spot. I want to sit here for a little bit and listen to the water bubbling by. But anyway, I might wrap it up there. Thanks for watching that video. No fabulous finds there today. This town, I believe, was fairly heavily detected in the 80s and 90s. We've found a few coins and relics here, but that little frog was a nice find. Plus we found some clock parts and the usual sort of things you find in these old ghost towns. So thanks for watching, everybody. Best of luck on your next trip out, and happy hunting. Bye for now.